Reclaim Your Spark is brought to you by 305 Pink Pack, a Miami-based nonprofit that supports individuals going through cancer treatment by helping remove everyday barriers like transportation, childcare, and grocery support so patients can focus on healing. In addition to these practical services, 305 Pink Pack is committed to supporting survivorship, including conversations that aren't always addressed during medical treatment. And then you can visit 305pinkpack.org to learn more. We have today Dr. Mindy DeSeta. She is a mental therapist, sex therapist, and dating expert.
Yes. I'm Dr. Mindy DeSeta. I have been working, I think, for about 12 years in total now. I started out as a licensed psychotherapist, helping individuals and couples in Miami. I was working in Brickell, seeing clients in person there. And I realized, probably after a year, that almost all of my clients, individuals, couples, it didn't matter the age, a lot of their challenges came back down to relationship issues, mostly around emotional intimacy and physical intimacy. I went to the University of Miami and we didn't really touch a lot on sex or body changes around sexual intimacy. So that was when I realized if I truly wanted to help somebody in the holistic person, I had to go back to earn my PhD in human sexuality. And that's what I did. And I had so much fun in my PhD program. It was awesome. I loved it. And then as soon as I became a sex therapist in Miami, I became really busy. So I have a concierge practice where I see clients part-time and I help them live their best relationship and best sex life. On the other side, I split my time. I have two sponsorships where I help bridge the gap between adult products. So thinking of toys, thinking of medical devices, I help bridge the gap between how these toys and products can help us live our best sex life. And I'm sure we will get into that tonight. On the other side, I am the dating and sexuality expert for Highly. We have about 41 million daters that I'm here to help them learn how to date, which is a lot of fun. And most recently, I'm at the end of writing my book. It's in editing. It's going to be all about how to talk to your children about online dangers, such as porn. And I am creating a game, which maybe someday can help many of you, but it is for couples to learn how to build relationship skills, emotional intimacy, and physical intimacy. And it'll be a lot of fun. So I am really excited to speak with you tonight. I have worked with some members of your 305 Pink Pack community. But tonight I'm really excited to have some banter with Roxana and truly open up. Ladies' nights are my favorite part of my job because I hope you guys can feel that we can open up in here and you can ask me anything that comes to your mind, anything about your body, anything about your sex drive, anything about your sexuality. That's what we're here tonight for.
Beautiful. And then I just wanted to mention Highly is a dating app in California.
Primarily in LA.
Awesome. You're doing a lot of cool things.
Thank
While I have my credential up and it's in a licensed mental health counselor, I'm really here as a survivor, my experience. And I'm here bringing Dr. Mindy to help us learn some things that we may not know about. And really passionate about all of us just feeling better and enjoying life, especially like in relationships and things like that. Dr. Mindy, is there something that you would like to open up with?
I can tell you that right now, one of the most common things that I have been seeing for some time, but still consistently, is that women, especially, are feeling many different pressures in life, whether it's from their body, from their job, stress, and that many women are struggling to feel sexy and to feel their libido. That is probably one of the biggest things I'm working on with women right now.
So those things definitely get highlighted through cancer treatments. There's a lot of body changes, a lot of different things, and it feels like kind of like having to relearn like how to navigate, sex and just like our own bodies and like just feeling comfortable, like things are have changed. I think that we can start talking about how to deal with self-esteem.
I think in general, women can struggle with feeling sexy. Um, especially being in Miami too, there are a lot of pressures. So I would tell you that there is a homework assignment I give all of my female clients, and I call it sexy confidence. And it's every single day you need to do something that makes you feel confident about yourself. Because in order for the libido to be happy, healthy, and thriving, we have to feel relaxed, calm, and confident. So to say, okay, how do I feel sexy? To get to that end goal, we're missing a few steps. So the libido, a lot of people say, oh, my libido's down. I just don't feel sexy. But when we look at everything else that's happening in their world, we'll say, actually, your libido is responding typically to what else is going on in your world. So how do we fix that? We take the steps back and we say, okay, how do we calm your central nervous system? Today, everybody's sympathetic nervous system is running in the fight or flight mode. I haven't come across anybody that is not. We're just getting programmed in that way. So when you are in that fight or flight mode or in crisis or that survival mode, what it can feel like, it's very difficult to go back and feel sexy in your skin. So what we have to do is ask ourselves, what's going to make me feel calm and relaxed in my body? What's going to help me feel confident in who I am? And those are the coping skills that we take to get to feeling sexy and a happy, healthy, thriving libido.
That makes a lot of sense, right? So it's like feeling secure in our bodies as well. And I think that with a lot of like just the process of like treatment and ongoing follow-ups and things like that, there is a lot of survival mode and a lot of fight or flight and a lot of like fears. And in addition to maybe other stressors like at home with maybe a spouse or a partner or just trying to date or if you have kids, right? So I think all of that can all those factors play a role. So basically, what I'm understanding is that libido comes in when we're feeling good about ourselves, or at least like calm and at ease.
And at the other night, we had to preface what is libido? Like, let's discuss that. It is your sex drive. The sex drive is mental and physiological. So, when we talk about libido, the physiological aspect, that's going to be your testosterone hormone going through all the body changes, all the treatments. Your hormone levels, as you guys know, are extremely important. So, if you're noticing or your labs are showing lower testosterone, it's going to be a very typical response that you're just not feeling that heightened libido. We also look at the hormone levels and the mental levels. So, the explanation I just gave, that was a mental piece, right? Because it's mental meaning the brain. Your biggest sex organ is your brain. So if your brain is in stress mode or crisis mode, the libido will be healthy, but it's responding to that, so it will be lowered.
What could be done to like help with that? In addition to like the mental, like is there something that you normally recommend to your clients?
Well, with the sexy confidence homework assignment, right? There is this piece of always know what your labs are, right? Meaning where are your hormone levels? We want to know that data. Outside of that, take 30 seconds every day to do something that makes you feel calm and confident. Calm and confident is what we're gonna go with. So, a lot of my clients will start out with something very simple. They'll start with, okay, I am going to maybe wear something that makes me feel comfortable. I'm maybe gonna do makeup today, or do my hair, or do something today that makes me feel good. Over time, though, they realize, okay, let me get into something a little bit deeper. And they will realize maybe it's music. Maybe it's a song that makes me feel good about myself. Maybe it's some type of journaling or some type of body movement. So over time, you'll see that we learn more ways to feel sexy and confident in ourselves.
And in terms of like when somebody's had a mastectomy and maybe there's numbness, right? And maybe that was an area that brought a lot of pleasure before and now can't feel anything or not much. How can one explore other ways to still enjoy pleasure?
So let's go back. What is your biggest sex organ? It is the brain. So yes, if you are somebody who, you really enjoyed your breast being massaged or your nipples had a lot of sensitivity that would create that arousal. And now those things are no longer there or it's less. That doesn't mean we have to completely write off that type of arousal. And I say that, I'm going to give more of an extreme example, but as a sex therapist, I have worked with paraplegics who have come in, and right now, if it's a male, female, they no longer can feel their genitals. But that doesn't necessarily mean we say, okay, I guess you'll never have sex again. No, we can still mentally feel pleasure. And it can be hard to open our minds up to this thought, but with paraplegics, we will learn how do you visually see the stimulation? How do you still mentally become aroused with less sensation? And it really is that mental aspect. So I would say never say this aspect of my sexuality is 100% gone. Explore your mind in creating that arousal when it's of less sensation, if that makes sense. Then on the other side, too, and this is something that, as your body changes, no matter what you have been through, women are constantly changing. So, this is something I'm going to encourage everyone to do throughout the rest of their life. And we call it body mapping. And it's understanding the parts of your body that you find arousal now. And the parts of your body that you're saying, nope, don't want to be touched there, and those will change. And that is how we stay in tune and have the best sex of our lives, right? Because we're constantly evolving.
So, body mapping, is there like a template? Like, do we draw out our body?
So there's two ways to do it, right? So when I work with my clients, obviously, I'm not going to see them naked. It's all talk therapy. But the step one is we have this cute little bubble figure of somebody, and they can draw on there what the parts of their body that they mentally believe will become aroused or mentally believe that, like, what, please don't touch there. But if you do have a partner, this would be the time to just explore erogenous zones. Erogenous zones is anywhere on the body that you can become aroused. So that would be kind of laying there and allowing yourself to explore your body or allowing your partner to explore your body. It's a very vulnerable act, but it also can be very bonding as well.
It sounds like it'd be important, like to keep it like fun too, if possible, right?
Everything can be bonding and fun when it comes to sex. And I tell all my clients, like, this is a luxury that we have. You ladies, like coming here tonight, this is a luxury that we have because there's still so much taboo around sex. So coming here tonight, you are opening up your mind even more to sexuality. And it's a privilege that we get to have these conversations. So thinking about it from that aspect with your partner too, having somebody who is open to this, that's exciting. That's trust building. That's emotional connection. That this can be exciting and fun, right? We're learning something about each other.
Anything else that you might recommend to somebody that's wanting to like be a little more vulnerable and explore things that they might like? Some people might have a harder time being vulnerable, and especially if they're not comfortable with a certain part of their body or after a surgery. What are some ways that they can prep themselves to do the body mapping or explore? things differently.
Start solo. Start solo. Because when you're with a partner, even if it's long term or even just like a one night, it's very vulnerable. And so, first of all, you want to go into that moment feeling calm and confident, right? That's how we get the libido is happy and we get the central nervous system down. So, we want to start exploring our bodies by ourselves. And I always tell all my clients, like, start exploring yourself. And how I do that with my male and female clients, I will have them lay on their bed naked for 10 minutes. And I say, okay, set the mood that's going to make you relaxed. It's always the goal of how do I get relaxed? So it's a lot of them will have that like a meditative music on or like a breathing exercise on, like the candles, the lights. And what you do is you actually touch yourself for exploration, not for pleasure. You're touching yourself for exploration. You're learning your body. You're creating a mind body connection. Because all too often, especially in females more than males, we become preoccupied during sex and we start thinking about different things, whether it's insecurities or a to-do list, like we become preoccupied. But to have the best and most connected sex that you would like, we have to stay present. So, this exercise does many, many, many things. You're laying there naked, touching your skin, creating this mind-body connection. First of all, it's hard, it's kind of awkward, it's a little vulnerable, but also you're learning the curves of your body. You're learning the sensations. You're learning the new erogenous zones. And this is an exercise for curiosity more than pleasure. But learning that curiosity, getting comfortable in our bodies, learning how to create the mind-body connection, right? This is also helpful if we've lost sensation in some part of our bodies. This is one of the ways I would say to start.
And that sounds pretty empowering, right? Like getting curious about your own body. Do you recommend like having a mirror or just like you're laying without a mirror and just touching your body and
You
exploring?
So I think with this exercise, there would not be a mirror for this one
Okay.
because we are women and we can be pretty critical on ourselves. So, a mirror can make us kind of tap into the fact of like, I don't like that part of my body. I don't like the way that's looking right now. And the point of this is to learn the feel, to create that mind-body connection. There is a fun like a mirror exercise, but it's educational.
Okay,
Right?
that sounds like a great thing to try and just like know our bodies and that way we can express also to another person, right, what we like and what we don't like.
Yes. And notice how I said I build the gap between like adult products and sex life, but right now we're not adding in toys yet. We don't get there. Toys can be an aid for something and bring in additional pleasure, but this is really what we're saying. How do we feel calm and relaxed in the mind-body connection? This is
Mhm.
all done with like a textile fingertip.
I see there's a question. I'm single, starting to date again. And how and when do you recommend bringing up with someone new about my history and that sex may be a bit complicated before things get to that point? So I started dating after um, the active treatment, but then like I've been on hormone blockers and I felt shame for some reason. I'm not ashamed that I had breast cancer, but I felt shame when I was dating. I just kind of felt like I was weird. And I told two people on dates, and I was so worried. And they looked at me like, why would you be worried to tell me? They made it seem so normal, which surprised me. I now have a partner, and luckily, he's very supportive and understanding of so many things beyond what I thought. But I know that's not the case with everyone that you'll meet. I decided I want to set this early on because if that person responds negatively, then that's not my person, right? And I can move on. But it's up to, I think, every individual. Some you might want to wait longer or sooner, but I think it's a very personal choice. And that is my experience and my thought process.
I think personal experiences are the best ways to learn. Like we have these moments because men typically heal in isolation. My practice is almost all males. My women, I have fewer individual women because women heal in groups. And they heal from learning each other's stories, like exactly what 305 Pink Pact is. Women heal in groups. But when we look at dating in general, right, we get to know somebody and we feel messages from them back and forth, back and forth. So you are unconsciously feeling green flag, red flag, green flag, red flag. We don't run every time there's a red flag. We keep it in our database. So when it comes to sharing something vulnerable, so sharing a medical history or sharing any past that could be very vulnerable, right? You are not expected to share something extremely vulnerable right away. It's not a part of the dating culture. You shouldn't put that expectation on yourself. It's not how dating works. We start getting the green flag, red flags, and what are they doing? They're telling you signals of I can trust this person's respectful, this person I can trust with something vulnerable. Once you have received green flag, green flag, green flag for respectful, I can give them emotional trust, um, these pieces and you have enough green flags that you can feel comfortable opening up, that would be the time for you to say, okay, I think I've gathered enough data that I can emotionally trust this person. So there really isn't a time frame. And, I think it's always a question of, well, do they deserve to know? You are not expected to tell at the beginning. The beginning of dating is learning about the person on a broad surface level.
Now that you say that, I remember that I was looking for those green flags to then decide I'm going to tell the person. And I chose what to say, right? Like, I maybe just said I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And if they ask a question, which they don't really ask, but I will probably answer that, but not like I'm in menopause and this and that. I just chose to like, I'll ease into that if it makes sense, if they are worthy of my personal information.
You were direct. And I think that's the best way to go about it because being direct means you're being clear. Right? And I think it's fair for the other person to not know the details like so they may come back not really understanding completely. But right, if they've given you enough of these green flags and you feel you can be vulnerable, that is when then you would take it to the next vulnerability level and say, okay, I'm being direct, let me go in more.
And then addressing sex being complicated. That was like the second part of the question.
Sex is complicated in general. I always tell people we have to make the arousing moment happen. It typically just doesn't happen sporadically, but you're right. Like, okay, so Roxana, what would you say are some of the most common challenges when it comes to, let's say, penetrative sex?
So like chemo or if somebody happens to have radiation in that area, but hormone blockers as well. It's that like menopause kind of situation, but like an overnight kind of extreme menopause symptoms. And so if there's a lot of pain, it makes sense that you're not going to be aroused or into wanting to have any sex, right? Because it's not going to be pleasurable.
So you're focusing on like the dryness and the pain. And okay, I have to tell you ladies, like we are lucky right now because we are learning more about menopause than we've ever known about menopause. And we are learning more and we are understanding that perimenopause is real from like 10 years prior to even going into menopause. So we are fortunate that we are at a place now where science is telling us what can help us. Surface level, when it comes to dryness, right? I'm sure you guys all know we have water-based lube and silicone-based lube. A lot of people choose water-based lube because maybe an allergy or maybe they're using a toy, water-based lube if you're using a silicone toy. But silicone lube actually lasts longer. People will stay away from it because they feel it's a little sticky or oily. They just don't really like kind of like the messiness that it makes. But for dryness, if you're not using a condom, silicone is probably the way to go in this case because it just lasts longer. Also, for dryness, we know there's vaginal moisturizers now, and there are many on the market that we can trust now. We also know that there's low dose vaginal creams. Those have to speak with your gynecologist if they would recommend those for you specifically. When it comes to dryness and the pain too, there are different things that we can think about. Okay, we'll use lube. But I was talking to Roxana about this before the call, and really, what do we need to feel pleasure? We need blood to feel pleasure. So we need to pull blood from all over your body that your heart is pumping. We need to pull it to your genitals. And this is a challenge for many different medical reasons because people can have diabetes or high cholesterol or like hypertension. These are all different things that would cause our blood flow to be slower or not as high pressure. So pulling blood flow is something we need to feel pleasure. Helps with dryness and can help with pain too. And there are different things. There are different supplements that we can take. Again, do not take them unless you've consulted with your doctor, but they are out there. There are supplements out there that will help engorge your genitals with blood. If we're not able to take supplements, there are devices. Like I said, I help aid in adult products to help us have our best sex life. So we actually have pumps. It's a vulva pump that goes over your vulva and it kind of suctions blood to your vulva. You probably maybe heard of this more with like a penis pump. I think that was like more trendy like in the 80s and 90s. But they actually do work and they have design ones for vulvas too. Those are actually very effective for many different reasons. When you think about dryness, you want to be careful of the soaps that you use. And we want to be careful to stay away from like different types of douching. We want to stay away from that pretty much altogether if there's dryness. For pain, pain is something that you would go to a pelvic floor therapist with. And why? Because they are able to physically touch you. They have the training to do that. So if you ever saw a pelvic floor therapist, they have different exercises to give you different techniques that they use to help stretch those muscles, different exercises to help you breathe through that. And they also have what maybe you've heard of are the dilators. There's a lot of medical advancements in this field. So we probably all heard of those dilators. They've been around for decades. Now there are actually vibrators that do the same thing. So they're also very approachable and like couple friendly. So like I said, there is so much research happening to help us right now that if you are struggling, reach out to me, reach out to your doctor, reach out to a pelvic therapist because there is something to help us.
I didn't know about that pump until you mentioned it to me. Um,
That's an easy one too because you can use it in the moment. You don't have to plan like a supplement or things like that. You have to plan this in the moment. You're done in 15 seconds.
Very cool. And I had a thought too. I wanted to add that I think that with everything that like we go through with treatment and being young and feeling like this shouldn't be happening right now. I shouldn't be in menopause. I shouldn't have this pain, right? I think there's ways to make it fun and sexy in the bedroom. You might have to dilate. And if you go to a pelvic floor PT, they might tell you buy these dilators and continue using them on your own. But if you have sex, like penetrative sex, that is your dilation for that day. Right. I had a friend joke with me because I was worried I'm dating and I have to dilate. You can be like, oh, you're my dilator. It can be like a playful thing, right?
And this is like a little bit tantalizing, right? Because you're gonna have to talk about this beforehand, right? Like I would always say, talk about it beforehand, and that conversation can be bonding. It can be a little tantalizing too. Like these things we want to lean into because anything about sex, it's all about our tone, our body language, how we approach the conversation. So leaning into like, do you want to be my dilator? Or like, can we do this this sexy exercise together. It's how we approach it. And people respond to each other's messages. So if one person leans in that tantalizing way, hopefully the other person will too.
Is there anything else that you might want to like share with us or recommend?
I think I like to leave people with the idea that women en masse, like on broad spectrum, we have what we call reactive arousal. And that means that we have to create the moments that we want to feel. So if we want to experience intimacy, typically we have to make that sexy moment. So again, I tell people, how do you feel calm and confident? It's what you see around you. So creating an environment in your home, in your bedroom, in your bathroom, right, that feels calming and kind of like sexy, right? So you think the lighting, you think decluttering, and just creates that mindset of feeling confident and sexy in yourself. And it's easier then to create those sexy moments, whether with yourself or with a partner.
Could that include taking care of your body? Like maybe like you shower and you put on lotion
That's part
about,
of your sexy confidence, right?
right?
That's your sexy confidence homework assignment that you all are going to leave here. What can I do every single day to help me feel confident and calm? And then the libido will come. But I've worked with many of my clients to be like, what does your bedroom feel like? And I always start in the bedroom because sleep is really important, feeling relaxed and calm. And they'll be like, well, I have the stack of bills here, or like my end table's really cluttered, or my desk that I work at all day long is here. And I'm like, let's declutter. Let's get rid of the pieces in our bedroom, especially that take our mind into stress mode, so that we can create this culture in our bedroom that feels calm and relaxing. That creates these intentional moments that increase the libido with yourself or with a partner.
Tell us about long-term dating, right? Like and sex and like how that might change over time or not.
I tell all my clients, love gets you into a relationship, but it will not get you through. It will not get you through. You have to have relationship skills in order to make a long-term relationship happy and healthy. And some of the skills are how to discuss emotional and physical intimacy. You need emotional intimacy to have the deeper physical intimacy. So when I work with couples, we start with emotional intimacy. But like I said, your pleasure is changing, the way you emotionally feel connected is changing. So we have to be able to talk about it. Um, so couples have to learn how to do that. Another one is teamwork. Life is hard, right? Like teamwork. I'm sure that as you were going through your treatment, right, there was a lot of life challenges that you were fighting alone or fighting with a partner. That's that teamwork. Um, we can think of it as friendship too, but somebody that we can really rely on. There's a sense of self that's really important. In order to be in a relationship that's happy and healthy, you have to have your autonomy, your own identity. That helps us stay away from the negative type of codependence. Because I actually believe we can have a healthy type of codependence, but
Mhm.
we have to have that autonomy. So
Okay.
those are some long-term relationship skills.
Right. And if that's hard to do on our own, we can talk to somebody like you, right? Or a therapist that talks about relationships.
The red flags to come into therapy would be like, oh, you know what? My partner is my best friend. We have so much fun together. But, sometimes I feel like we're roommates, but like my kind of like that. Or another reason to start sex therapy would be a lot of people struggle with sex. It's actually more complicated than society makes us believe.
Okay.
So a lot of times people will say, we've discussed sex, but it kind of just ends in tension, or we withdraw, or we become angry.
And the tension and withdrawal, is that like based on the relationship or something personal to each person or both?
A lot of people, like when they discuss sex, like maybe one person doesn't want it as much, those mixed match libidos, super common. Oftentimes it's so vulnerable that we don't really know how to discuss it in an effective and sensitive manner. We miss some of those pieces. So having a conversation, maybe one person says something that can be hurtful, and the whole relationship then kind of goes into a defensive mode. And every time sex comes up, you can kind of feel in your body a little bit of tension. You feel your defense mechanisms coming up, and that cycle seems to repeat itself and almost get worse. So clients will come in saying, well, every time we try to discuss sex, we both become defensive, we become angry about sex. It just has a lot of tension. Um, but that doesn't mean a relationship should be over. What that means is we have to back it up and we start with the emotional intimacy again. And then we easily slide into, okay, now how do we get back into rebuilding that sexual intimacy together?
Okay, good stuff. Thank you, Mindy, for being here and talking to us about this stuff, which is, I agree, it's a privilege, right, to get this information nowadays and as women too.
Being able to talk about this in a group setting, I think we're really, really lucky. And I hope you guys can feel that, I'm not the only one struggling. These are more common than I thought. There are ways to work through this. This doesn't mean anything's wrong or broken. That's just, as a sex therapist, I truly, truly believe at the end of the day, we can all live the sex life we desire.
I think we're all worthy of it, and that's why I'm here in the Zoom. And Rosemary asked me to do this because, like, I believe that we all deserve it, and I get really passionate about having pleasure, and especially like after all the hard stuff that we go through with cancer. I think that sometimes we might feel like broken or like not good enough or like who's gonna love me now kind of thing. But there are a lot of people that can love you, that will. And we have to believe that for ourselves, right? And take care of ourselves. And
Somebody who sees, finding a partner that also sees that power and strength in you and desires the power and strength that you have all put into this.
yeah, my partner, when I told him he's like, I'm more attracted to you, something like that. And my brain was like, what? I thought it would be less. So I had my own negative beliefs about me and how people would interact with me. I think it is important when you find somebody that is supportive, it does help as well to just start seeing like, okay, no, it is possible to continue my life and enjoy the things that I want to enjoy. It's just some things are different, but they're still good things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So I'll finish this off by just saying I'm Roxana Tefel, and we will see you next time on Reclaim Your Spark.
Thank you, ladies.